Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Yes, students, today we are going to learn translation skills. We are going to talk about it, and after the end of this lesson, you'll be able to understand translation skills. So, what is translation skill, and why we call it a translation skill? Translation skill because there are certain problems that occur when you translate any given text, especially due to linguistic and cultural dependence on practice. So, translation theory cannot teach a translator to write well, but it can provide training to acquire the skills needed for achieving accuracy and economy, which are the two main aims of translation. So, when you are going to translate anything, so you have to keep this thing in mind that what is the cultural and linguistic background of the target text. So let's move on to the next slide. What is translation and translating and a translation? So translating is the process, in fact, to translate the activity rather than the tangible object, and a translation is basically the product of the process of translating, means the translated text. Translating is what? Translating is the process to translate. A translation is what? A translation is the translated text, and simple translation is the abstract concept which encompass both the process of translation and the product. So the process of translation is translating, and the product of translation is a translation. Means this is the combination of both. So let's move on to the next slide. And when in this class, as we are going to learn about English translation skills, and translation is an art, so it is quite difficult to master, and you have to keep certain things in mind, especially its very nature requires an intimate knowledge of both the languages concerned. You must have the knowledge related to the target language and to the given text. Both means if you are going to translate anything in Urdu from English, you should have a competence in English and Urdu both. If you're not having proper competence in both languages, so you are not going to translate it accurately. So knowledge is intended to imply capacity to comprehend and express. So in order to be a good translator, you must be able to understand exactly what is intended to be conveyed. So if you're not able to understand, so ultimately what will happen? You will create a confused translated text. Your translation will not be appropriate. So this is very important that you have to be quite competent in both languages, because the whole art of translation lies in expressing exactly and precisely without either omitting thought or the expression. So this is very important if you want to be a good translator. And there is another thing that you have to keep in your mind, that you have to understand idiomatic expressions of the language. If you are not able to understand idiomatic expressions, then you are not going to translate accurately. Then comes that how to translate. So the process of translating: first you have to read the vernacular passage carefully. Make all such words or phrases as you do not clearly understand. So remember that words do not have a fixed meaning. They have more than one meaning, and you have to find out exactly the meaning intended by the writer. Then only you will be able to translate exactly. If you are not able to understand the sentences, if you are not able to understand the variety of meanings, you won't be able to understand the tenses, understand the given text. So once you are able to translate exactly, then Then in translating, try to express as a whole the sense of vernacular passage into English, employing exact English equivalences for vernacular words, phrases, and idioms. Do not imply inaccurate words. So avoid literal translation. Translate a sentence as a whole, and don't go excessively free translation. Do not use either unfamiliar archaic words. Choose only such words that are known well. Avoid use of many words when a single word is rightly chosen. Do not write long sentences. Break up into shorter sentences. See your English translation reads like a continuous piece of prose. Look at that. Once you are done with your translation, then look at that. Is it looks like a proper translation written in simple idiomatic English, or it lacks something? So your translation is successful if faithful translation of the if it is a faithful translation of the original into English, if it conveys exactly the sense, if it reproduces all the details, if it is a translation as a whole, it is a continuous passage of good English, and its total impression is the same as that of the original. So this is all about translation skills. If you have any question, you can ask me.